End of an era.
Venantius Maria Mureva knocked out of the race for Makerere Vice Chancellor.
Professor Venantius Maria Mureva's initial inclusion among the candidates for the race for the Vice-Chancellor position at Makerere University was a contentious one for a man who served as acting Vice-Chancellor for 3 years and helped improve its rankings. This will be a blow.
Also tonight, the patience of Chambogo University lecturers and non-teaching staff finally runs out.
And the NRM registers another loss in a by-election.
It is this that forms part of our debate tonight. Be sure to have your say on NTV poll.
Well, it's Thursday night, the 9th of August 2012, and a very warm welcome to NTV tonight. But first, let's have a look at the rest of the headlines.
We are not opening the next semester.
No longer at ease, Chambogo University gives ultimatum as strike action looms.
We want to know. Police questions city tycoon Godfrey Chirumira over 190 million shillings meant for Chiruhura district.
Also tonight, Mulago doctors speak out on substandard drugs supplied to the National Referral Hospital.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I am Gabriel Lepeno.
And I'm Faith Ariho. Now first tonight, is this the end of an era for the former acting Vice-Chancellor of Makerere University, Professor Venantius Maria Mureva? The professor, along with another candidate, Professor Eli Katunguka, has been dropped from the race for Vice-Chancellor.
Well, 3 candidates are left, and the University Senate, which is the top academic organ at the university, selected Professor John Dumba Sentamu, Professor Edward Chirumira, and Associate Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, from whom the next Vice-Chancellor will be chosen by the University Council. Now we will have this story in this bulletin in due time. Well, moving on, Chambogo University staff have threatened to strike in 2 weeks' time if their grievances are not urgently responded to by the institution's governing body. Well, the endless list of grievances includes, among others, the mismanagement of the institution, pay rise issues, and the forceful resignation of the Vice-Chancellor, Isaiah Ndiege. Now, the resolution to strike was reached during a heated meeting by all the university staff this afternoon at the university's main hall here in Kampala.
Despite being the head of the university responsible for management of all resources in the institution, Professor Isaiah is allegedly blamed for the problems facing the university. He is, among other things, being accused of not tolerating staff views contrary to his, undermining members of staff, not promoting the welfare of staff, and creating intrigue within different departments.
Unless top-up is paid with arrears of July, to begin the financial year 2012-13, we are not opening the next semester.
The staff are demanding a top-up of salaries for both teaching and non-teaching staff, which amounts to a sum of about 800 million. This, they say, had already been approved by the University Council, but could not be effected because Professor Isaiah frustrated the move.
Since most of the problems that are facing them rotate around the office of the Vice-Chancellor, Council asks him to step aside so that he can be investigated, or the office can be investigated, to make sure that the mismanagement of staff in Chambogo University can be resolved.
It is resolved that a strike commences on 20th August and goes on to 12th September if no positive response is got from the responsible parties, and that Professor Isaiah steps aside to pave way for investigations.
Now, senior doctors from Mulago Hospital have testified to the fact that some of the drugs used for treating patients are substandard. The director of Uganda Heart Institute, Dr. John Amagino, has today told lawmakers of how on several occasions drugs supplied by national medical stores have messed them up. Dr. Amagino, together with the director of Uganda Cancer Institute, Dr. Jackson Oliem, were this morning appearing before the parliamentary committee in charge of the health. This comes a few days after the National Drug Authority suspended Flamingo Pharmaceuticals as an Indian firm for supplying face drugs, and 10 more companies are under investigations. Jingo Francis reports.
The extent to which the supply of substandard drugs have proliferated into hospitals continue to show lawmakers dig deeper. The director of Uganda Heart Institute, Dr. John Omagino, has today told legislators that on several occasions, drugs supplied by national medical stores have messed them up. The hospital largely depends on drug supplies from the national medical stores.
And you buy a drug, but when it comes at the point of delivery, need for it to act, we have challenges on some of those drugs. But for us on the ground who are using the drug, who are between death and the family, and we are saying the drug is not working.
Dr. Magino cited an open heart operation case which almost failed because some of the drugs did not conform to the required standards.
The patient, one developed a clot and in a coronary, and to pull him out took us almost 6 hours. Now the issue is the team we were with just bundled all the stock that we had, said, we had to fly in at short notice another consignment. He
further revealed that National Drug Authority lacks capacity to identify quality drugs from the suppliers.
The issue is NDA, right in that meeting, for example, had to declare that they don't have a capacity to control the quality of of drugs that are coming in. Yes. So if I don't have the whole system, I will not sign for that patient's operation. I would rather that patient looks for it anyway. I am not, and our team is not prepared to bury somebody with the finger looking at you that you in the cause. No.
This revelation comes 2 days after the managing director of the National Medical Stores, Moses Kamabare, appeared before the same committee and assured lawmakers of quality drugs other than those outside their control that are flooding on the market.
The ones that they are talking about are not from us. They are actually from the private sector. The drug that we have got which helped us to blow the whistle was an injection which we had received. And when we found that it was not doing the work it's supposed to do, we took it back to the supplier.
It was in the same committee that the executive director of the National Drug Authority, Dr. Gordon Sematiko, revealed that 10 drug manufacturers are being investigated, while Flamingo Pharmaceuticals, an Indian firm, has been suspended from supplying drugs. Now, Dr. Magino of the Uganda Heart Institute and Dr. Jackson Oriema of the Cancer Institute want the two institutes to be given autonomy from Mulago Hospital.
We have even gone to the extent, in the case of the Uganda Cancer Institute, we have drafted what a cabinet member should look like and handed it over to the Ministry of Health.
Mulago National Referral Hospital has an annual inpatient turnover in excess of 140,000 patients and attends to over 600,000 outpatients annually. The hospital delivers over 30,000 mothers per year, while the Heart Institute attends to over 10,000 patients annually. Jingo Francis, NTV Parliament.
Our police at the Criminal Investigation Department spent this morning interrogating city tycoon Godfrey Chirumira over his alleged involvement in fraud. Chirumira was grilled over 190 million shillings meant for Chiruhura district that was deposited on the account of one of his companies, Bagari Traders. However, the businessman's interrogation was cut short after he fell ill during the questioning. Solomon Siranja reports.
City business tycoon Godfrey Chirumira travelled lightly to the office of the Criminal Investigative Directorate CID in Chibuli, but the matter was heavy. Of interest to the police is how 190 million shillings belonging to Chiruhura district ended up on the account of his company. Official sources told NTV that the money should have been returned to the government treasury account by the end of financial year 2010-2011, but was instead transferred to that of Bagari Traders, one of Chirumira's companies.
I would like to confirm that today a city businessman by the name of Godfrey Chirumira was summoned at our Crime Investigations Directorate. This businessman had his name implicated in this fraud.
We have also learned that CID is in possession of transfer orders from Chirihura district, instructing Bank of Baroda to conduct an electronic funds transfer to the government treasury account. But the question yet to be answered is who instructed Bank of Baroda to wire the money onto Chirumira's account. Chirumira also allegedly withdrew the money by signing checks including that of 125 million, 60 million and 5 million. Other two suspects, including Chirenga Fred and Kaira Fred, who collected the money, have been arrested and detained at Central Police Station and Ginger Road Police Station, respectively. Chirumira's interrogation was, however, discontinued after his health deteriorated. An ambulance was called in to take the city tycoon, but he preferred to use his car. He's expected back at the CID offices after his health stabilizes. Solomon Serwanja, NTV Tonight.
The FDC candidate Winnie Chiza has retained the Kasesa District Woman Parliamentary seat in a hard-fought election yesterday, trouncing NRM candidate Rehema Muhindo and DP's Rosemary Masika. This is the 7th by-election in which the ruling party NRM has lost to the opposition. Maurice Ochol has been following the by-election and now reports on what this result means for the NRM.
The stakes are high in today's elections, while Forum for Democratic Change wouldn't like to lose one of its few seats in Parliament. National Resistance Movement is desperate to stem the recent run of losses in by-elections. The ruling party has so far lost 6 out of the last 7 by-elections. A win for FDC would perpetuate the opposition's gains made through recent by-elections and maintain Kasese as a major enclave of the party in Western Uganda. For NRM, a win would be a big step towards re-establishing the support it once enjoyed in the district before FDC showed interest in it in 2006. The FDC capitalized on government's reluctance to restore the area's culture institution of Usinga to win massive support there. By 2011 elections, the government had learnt its lessons and accepted the coronation of Charles Wesley Mumbere as a Musinga. The Kasese woman MP seat fell vacant in June after the Court of Appeal nullified the election of Kiza on account of election irregularities by the Electoral Commission. However, yesterday's vote proved otherwise.
I will support. I'm just happy. You can see the people are enjoying their victory. It isn't my victory, it is the people's victory.
NRM's Rehema Muhindo conceded defeat, but was quick to add that it was not the end of her career.
What has come out, that's what the people of Kasese decided. I accept. Losing is not an end of life.
The NRM has so far lost seats in the by-elections in Luwero district, where it lost to DP. In Entebbe municipality, also lost to DP, while in Jinja to FDC. In Bukoto South, the NRM again lost to DP, while in Rubaga North, the NRM lost to DP after court nullified Sinka Tongole's election result. With specific attention to the Kasese by-election, Robin Anabanja, the campaigning agent for Muhindo's camp, who also doubles as the MP for Chibale district, said a number of factors had contributed to their loss.
The Rwenzururu factor, Bakonjo, Vasiasi Basongora, the opposition has learnt all our tricks. We need to sit down as NRM and change our tactics.
The opposition seems to have mastered a unique plan in this year's by-election on how to deal with the ruling party candidates during elections.
So we would want to see if the NRM can go into the ring in a fair play, in a fair election, and see whether they can get the support of the people. What we are not talking about is the army or without the army, because the army and the police have no business in an election.
Most observers have, however, attributed this massive loss of NRM seats to the president's failure to fulfill his pledges for the last 26 years, while others have blamed the loss to the internal party wrangles. Scholars such as Professor George Kanyahamba have, however, attributed the loss to simply the way the Electoral Commission administers elections.
Many of the retired judges and magistrates are living in abject poverty, except those who may have been corrupt or who got illegal wealth. Those are comfortable.
Chiza scored 97,669 votes, beating her closest rival NRM's Rehema Mohindo, who pulled 59,946 votes. DP's Rose Masika got 1,229 votes. Maurice Chol, NTV.
Well, it's on this issue that we would like to hear from you on tonight's NTV poll. We are asking, do you think NRM's loss in the several by-elections is an indication of the growing strength of the opposition? I'll say it again. Do you think NRM's loss in several by-elections is an indication of the growing strength of the opposition?
Well, to have your say, text 8778 followed by yes or no, as well as your name and where you are texting from, and we shall be reading some of your comments during tonight's newscast, as well as bringing you the final poll result for tonight.
Okay, NTV Tonight takes a break at this point, but there's so much more still ahead on the bulletin.
Police arrest a woman for neglecting a 6-day-old baby.
And on Eco Talk this week, when plastic becomes a source of fuel. NTV Tonight continues after this short break. Stay with us.
This is NTV.
Fieldwork has been defined by different scholars. Some think it is an art.
These are the blood types that are in human beings. We have A.
When a chemical reaction takes place, it involves two things.
We are given a straight line that has been denoted by 2x minus y is equal to 6.
No one feels the motherland like we do. So tune in every day at 6 p.m. and Fridays from 11 p.m. for the best in homegrown music. Only on NTV, the station that celebrates local music talent.
Ideally, we all have the right to express our opinions and views truthfully and openly.
Ate lero tugenda Katongole Mbukasam.
Kampala bwerere mwasomo the bus. The discussion is still going on in the bus.
Tulina okugumira challenges ezimu bwe tuba tulina okugoba abatembeeyi mwami lukwaga agumanga abatembeeyi mugende mbadde njala kunyonyola omwami yagambye nti meya lukwago ye meya omutuufu gavumenti ekutte lukwago emunyigira mu nsonga takyekyusa.
NTV Tonight. In a reminder of tonight's poll question, we asked, do you think NRM's loss in several by-elections is an indication of the growing strength of the opposition? Do you think NRM's loss in several by-elections is an indication of the growing strength of the opposition?
Well, to have you say, text 8778, then yes or no, and followed by your name and where you are texting from. Let's now take a look at some of your comments so far.
Okay, Joseph Balikudembe, you say no, but people are just losing hope in the NRM government. it has failed to fulfill all its promises, what with the rampant corruption, poor roads, poor medical care and education, etc.
And Opio Chen here says, yes, and how I wish they also organize by-elections for presidency.
Okay, there stands our tentative poll result. 83% of you are saying yes, while 17% of our respondents so far say no.
And well, stay tuned as we shall be bringing you more comments and tonight's final poll result at the tail end of tonight's newscast. Now, moving on, is this the end of an era for the former acting Vice-Chancellor of Makerere University, Professor Venantius Valiamuleba? The professor, along with another candidate, Professor Eli Katunguka, has been dropped from the race for Vice-Chancellor. 3 candidates are left.
Well, the University Senate, which is the top academic organ at the university, selected Professor John Dumba Sentamu, Professor Edward Chirumira, and Associate Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, from among whom the next Vice-Chancellor will be chosen by the University Council.
Professors John Dumba Sentamu, Edward Chirumira and Associate Professor Barnabas Nawangwe are the men still standing in the race for the Vice-Chancellorship at Makerere University following the elimination of Professors Venantius Valiamuleba and Eli Katunguka Rwakasha. A statement released by the University Senate, which met this morning to decide on the 3 final candidates, says the 5 professors had been recommended to it by the search committee. A meeting chaired by Acting Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Finance and Administration, Tokodri Togboa, was then convened to nominate 3 candidates as stipulated by the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act of 2001. The sieving was done through secret ballot. Consequently, Dr. Barnabas Nawangwe got the most votes, followed by Professor Dumba Sentamu and Professors Edward Chirumira and Valiamuleba tying in 3rd position. The tie warranted a second secret ballot in which Chirumira beat Valiamuleba by just 1 vote.
Yeah, he's out. The Senate is going to make a recommendation to Council, which he have done. They have recommended 3 names based on the Act.
Is there any other person that's out of the race?
That is Professor Katunguka. The rest are on the race still.
Efforts by NTV to reach Professor Valiamuleba, who has been at the helm of the university as acting Vice-Chancellor, for comment were futile as he did not pick up his phone. However, Professor Katunguka says he accepts the decision made by the Senate, although he also has reservation on how the whole process was conducted.
Well, the Senate has taken a decision, and I respect the verdict of the Senate. We have always said that the whole process had been flawed from the beginning.
The race for the second top job at the Ivory Tower started with 9 professors and associate professors, with the search committee knocking out Professors Tony Oyana and Augustus Nuwagaba just this week. The University Council is now expected to meet next week to decide on a substantive Vice-Chancellor who will be known by the end of August. As required, the next VC must at least be an associate professor, have considerable administrative and management experience, and must be aged between 40 and 60 years.
Now, Grade 1 Magistrate of the Anti-Corruption Court, Emmanuel Waguma, has today granted bail to the 4 suspects arrested over alleged graft in the office of the Prime Minister. They all pleaded not guilty to 28 counts of fraud alleged to have been committed 1st June and 30th July 2010. Godfrey Kazinda, Owori Martin, Beatrice Kezabu, Hussein Katuma, a petrol station manager in Tinda, were granted a cash bail of 20 million after presenting 11 sureties altogether. However, the defense argued that holding the suspects beyond 48 hours violated the Constitution. Sylvia Yohanga gives us more.
The former Principal Accounting Officer Geoffrey Kazinda Owori Martin, the Commissioner for Disaster and Preparedness, his assistant Beatrice Kezabu, and the petrol station manager in Tinda, Hussein Katuma, today appeared before Grade 1 Magistrate Emmanuel Waguma after they spent a night in Luzira. In yesterday's court session, the suspects were charged with 168 counts of fraud, but today the State Prosecutor Jane Francis Aboru reduced it to 28 counts of forgery and an alternative count of conspiracy to commit a felony. All the suspects pleaded not guilty to the charges, but their defense lawyers asked court to grant them bail since they have been serving a police bond and have not violated any terms of the bond. The defense lawyers argued that the state cannot mechanically deny bail to anyone, and if it has to do so, the reasons must be substantiated. They also added that it seems the state came already prepared to deny bail to the suspects. This was after prosecution said that if the suspects were free, they could jeopardize the investigations, and asked the magistrate to grant them 2 weeks to complete their work, contradicting the investigating officer who asked for 1 month on the charge sheet. The defense therefore told court that the state does not know what it wants. Prosecution also asked the magistrate to deny the suspects bail, saying that it will be hard for the investigation team to recover property alleged to have been bought using the money in question. But the defense retaliated, saying that if prosecution wants to use that reason, it should open another file under illicit enrichment, catered for in Section 31 of the Anti-Corruption Act 2009. After analyzing both submissions, Magistrate Baguma ruled that the suspects be given bail after state failed to convince him on what grounds the suspects should remain incarcerated. Kazinda Geoffrey, Martin Awori each presented 3 sureties and were given cash bail of 5 million shillings each. Beatrice Kezab presented a 3 million cash bail after presenting 2 sureties, and Hussein Katuma presented 3 sureties and posted a cash bail of 2 million shillings. Each of the sureties are bonded with 50 million shillings, not cash.
May has been losing under my hand.
The suspects also handed their passports to court and will appear for mention on 27th August. Sudil Biarhanga, NTV.
A government's plan to create 25 new districts is, according to Professor George Kanyehamba, a very unfortunate development for a country that is already struggling to cope with the 111 it already has. The former Supreme Court judge believes this plan is a political move aimed at creating more seats for NRM members of parliament and local leaders. Kanyehamba also spoke of the work of non-governmental organizations in Uganda, which he said have lost their focus because of fear. Here's Josephine Karunji.
The argument has always been that the creation of new districts ensures better service delivery to all. On the contrary, however, Professor George Kanyehamba says it takes services farther away from the people.
If you look at today's map, the districts of Uganda are written in Kenya, in Sudan, or in Tanzania. We are really playing a very, very silly game, in my opinion.
The ideal situation, according to the retired judge, is to get back to the original number when the 1995 constitution was enacted. Members of the civil society share his sentiments.
It is because of this culture that have been inculcated in the people by the politicians that people are demanding for these districts. But people need to be guided.
Kanyehamba spoke at a dialogue on the contribution of civil society organizations to Uganda's development. While he recognized the role of the civil society and non-governmental organizations, he castigated them for sticking to the status quo, while some were just replicas of others, seeking only to make money and not improve the lives of the people.
Africa is a birth of great ideas, but also the grave of most of them.
The professor says the NGOs have now been subdued by fear, and they now concentrate on carrying out investigations whose outcomes and reports never see the light of day.
For many governments, investigations are covering up the dirt that is under the carpet of governance. And therefore, we should investigate that dirt and who is responsible for covering it rather than going into the countryside and say women have not been given this or the other.
Josephine Karunji, NTV.
Now let's take a look at more stories making the news across Uganda tonight.
Kira Road police in Kamocha have arrested a woman in connection with neglecting a 6-day-old baby. 22-year-old Nalumunya Shakira has been allegedly locking up her baby in the room before going to work. Residents of Kamocha say that they've often heard the baby cry from the room.
One of the neighbors to this lady came to us and she told us that, come on, there is a kid who is always being closed in the house. The mother walks away. She goes and returns late in the afternoon. So we had to go with the office lawyer to ascertain the facts. And we really got the house locked, having a padlock. The baby was crying.
However, Nalumunya blames her actions on her long hours of work.
Meanwhile, 2 people have been injured and rushed to hospital after a building collapsed on them in Wabigalo town in Mitiana district. David Lumansi and Gregory Arinitwe were going about their business when the tragedy happened.
The
landlord has since gone into hiding. Residents said officials from Uganda National Roads Authority had warned him to relocate the house because the construction of the Mityana-Kampala road was ongoing, but he failed to heed to their instructions.
Finally, employees of PK Supermarket in Chiwatule, a Kampala suburb, are in shock after a watchman at the supermarket allegedly broke into it and made off with a number of items. It is suspected that he used a nail to unlock the door. His gun and shoes were found abandoned in the supermarket.
The police is having more time to catch up with the investigations. Though the suspect is still at large, so let us try to embark on to use our sister forces and try to crack him down.
Now, cooking is one of the most important and indeed common activities carried out by many people in several homes on a daily basis. This is done using several forms of energy, with firewood and charcoal being the most common in rural Africa. But now a new and more dangerous fuel, the community of Manafwa, is taking the community in Manafwa by storm because of its availability. In this week's EcoTalk, Craig Kadoda tells us more about cooking using plastic, an environmental risk that has picked up in the area.
This lady in Manafwa district, eastern Uganda, is slicing this old jerrycan that was once used as a feeding trough for animals into pieces. The pieces that do not have to be proportionate are cut out to be used and not to be disposed of, as it would be the case in many homesteads. It wasn't long before she lit her 3-stone stove with the jerrycans to start preparing her meal. And off did the jerrycans start burning, producing a yellow flame that boiled her food. And out of curiosity, I asked why she was cooking using a plastic jerrycan.
You find that the jerrycans, the basins, you can decide just to break a basin and prepare a meal because there is no fire.
She is one of the many women in Manafwa who have taken up the habit that has cleaned the community of most of the plastics. Not too far away, we bumped into another lady that was carrying dry materials from the garden, which looked to be cooking materials. In her case, she blends both plastic and dry banana stems to cook.
There was a belief that if they integrate trees with their bananas, the bananas would fail. So they avoided planting trees and concentrated on planting bananas. The time has reached. The communities have a problem of wood fuel shortage, and they are resorting to anything that can burn.
Now the young banana shoots too are being uprooted from the gardens and used with plastic to cook as well. But what does the food taste like?
It is not good, it is smelly, but there is nothing to do. We have to use it and we eat it like that.
Open burning of plastic waste can be dangerous to the health of the natural environment. This is because the wood does not reach high enough temperatures to destroy many of the dangerous chemicals created when plastic burns. The wood stoves only tend to smolder and smoke, releasing plumes of toxic fallout into the surrounding community. The ash too left behind is hazardous.
Plastics, as it's known, is made out of petroleum, which when burnt produces smoke that is carcinogenic. And carcinogenic means it causes cancer.
Now the authorities are trying to come up with solutions in the meantime, like planting trees. But efforts have been futile due to a lack of alternative fuels that the communities can use.
Energy saving is also another area of good intervention to the problem that we have. So
We have some programs that are promoting energy-saving technologies.
There are recycling options available for many of these plastic products as opposed to burning them, which releases carbon monoxide to the atmosphere, which is a dangerous gas.
We're now going to take a short break, but Malcolm Musime returns with NTV Business, so don't go too far.
Many of the retired judges and magistrates live in abject poverty, except those who may have been corrupt or who got illegal wealth. Those are comfortable.
This is NTV.
Ideally, we all have the right to express our opinions and views truthfully and openly.
Ate lero tugenda Katongole Mbukasam.
Kampala bwerere mwansomu the bus.
The discussion is still going on in the bus. Tulina okugumira challenges ezimu gwe tuba tulina okugoba abatembeeyi mwami Lukwago agumaga abatembeeyi mugende mbadde njala kunyonyola omwami yagambye nti Meya Lukwago ye meya omutuufu. Gavumenti ekutte Lukwago emunyigira mu nsonga takyekyusa.
Welcome back to Minibus Kyogereko.
Singa omusajja abankwana nga njagala sifa ku kya ssente wabula nfa ku mbeera yeeyisa
alimba ono
This is Minibus Kyogereko.
This is NTV.
TV Business with Umeme.
Hi there, and a very warm welcome to NTV Business tonight. Malcolm Sim, and Fast financial institutions say that they are now counting on micro and small businesses to spur growth amidst concerns of slowing economic activity and loan uptake in the country. Now, since the start of the year, private sector credit in shilling-dominated loans has been contracting. But as Rainer Ojon reports, key sector players are optimistic that the progressive fall in inflation will encourage more credit uptake.
Private sector credit from commercial banks in Uganda has remained contract for much of this year, according to the central bank. However, financial sector players maintain that the outlook for the rest of the year remains strong and that indeed they will retain growth.
But this year may be a little bit better because inflation is coming down as we go towards the end, although in the beginning of the year it was a bit tight. But obviously, I think banks, like any other business, will strive towards being better than they were the previous year. Us being new, obviously, it took us a while. This is basically our fourth year of operation. Therefore, we are looking now towards being profitable.
All the same, with financial access still limited to urban areas, some of the major lenders in the market are defending their scale-up on innovation of platforms they believe will enhance mobile commerce transactions and support their growth.
We will be publishing our accounts next week, and all I can say is that we are still doing well. There is better performance compared to the same time last year, and we are still upbeat that irrespective of the tough financial conditions, economic conditions that we are going through, the bank will still be profitable and we should be able to deliver a good return to our shareholders.
And with the quarterly results expected next week going forward, there is a strong observation within the domestic financial market that even as most of the traditional kingpins emerged strong in pre-tax earning earlier, more work is needed for new players still coming on board. Raina Ojan, NTV Business.
And in the financial markets, the shilling has remained fairly stable against the dollar, supported by good inflow volumes from mainly institutional investors. We have more in our financial market report.
Financial Report is brought to you by URA, developing Uganda together.
All vehicles are required to revalidate their registration using our new online module and get a new logbook. All newly imported vehicles will also be registered online using this new online module. Get out of the line and get online.
And finally, on NTV Business Night, it is now official that all shareholders of Stanbic Bank have 4 more shares for each share they held before July this year, after the company listed the bonus shares on the Uganda Securities Exchange. But as Samuel Setuma reports, it will take acquiring an electronic account for any shareholder to benefit from these new shares.
If you're a Stanbic shareholder, effective today, you officially own 4 times more shares than you owned before, following the listing of the bonus shares by the bank. This takes the book value of the company to 51 billion shillings in capital. Stanbic as a company thus has expectations of its shareholders.
The value remains the same, but you have wanted more shares to trade. It means that you effectively are being empowered to come into the market probably more regularly than you others would have. That's effectively what it means.
The share is now costs a bit less than what it cost earlier, and it's more available. So that translates into a more liquid counter.
Definitely, in terms of perception, everyone's mind has it that okay, now more shares have come into the system, and therefore definitely for the buyers, they think that because now there is more supply in the market than it was probably yesterday or a few days back, probably the price should come down.
But if you want to sell more of the shares or buy more, unless you have an electronic account called the Central Depository Account, none of this can happen.
You are now not able to trade on the USE if you don't have an account. So what we need to do, or what we're doing right now, is calling back all the paper certificates, getting them deposited into the electronic account, and then once the certificate is deposited onto the electronic account, a few days later the bonus will be deposited as well.
Such events are called corporate actions. More of this should help better the market vibrance and activity that has generally been slow for most of this year. Samuel Setumba, NTV Business.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you too for watching. That's all we had for you from the business desk. Now we'll be taking a short break, and when we come back, Joel Kamadi will be bringing you more news in the sports world.
Unplug electronic equipment that's not in use.
EcoBank brings you a whole new world of winning opportunities.
Simply deposit and maintain.
This is NTV.
Kwene embeera y'abasajja bano
essuubi nga lyakugwamu mama
bano abasajja abanaatera n'okujja kusigiriza ffe ekiro basituleko emiwumbo gy'emmere bagitwale
sogera byange kibanda bana bagambanga ne bagamba bweyagala nkubulira ebyange ja tugende emyanzi
mpulira banyumya babeera bakujerega waliko omusawo w'ekinansi South Africa baba bakujerega obituufu
baba banjerega oyo mufere mubbi yennyini yeetaaga miggo omuntu wa bulijjo tomuzannyirangako abeeranga dormant volcano
bwemba mukkiriza nina takuwa mugiyita
ate takuwa gobeera mugoberezi tolowooza nti buli mulimo oyogerera omusiraamu singa naakubuuza nti katonda yagamba atya
bw'oba oli pasita ng'okyawa olimba obba oyenda olina abakazi basatu please heaven is waiting for you. One day you'll pay and soon your time is out.
Otisa moni.
Sitisa. Nkubulira Yesu talimba.
Ebintu mbimala mulundi gumu. Kati what is I love peace.
Gwokola bi.
Wegase n'omusajja mutwale mabi. Era y'abasajja bano.
Essuubi nga lyakugwamu.
Fieldwork has been defined by different scholars. Some think it is an art.
These are the blood types that are in human beings. We have A.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Sport. I am Joel Kamadi. In our Olympics update, the United States reigned supreme in the women's 200-meter final after Allyson Felix saw off Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce of Jamaica and Carmelita Jeter of the United States. Usain Bolt effortlessly breezed into the Olympic 200-meter final to set up a much-anticipated showdown with his training partner Johan Blake. The reigning Olympic champion won the second semi-final in 20.18 seconds, racing out of the blocks brilliantly before relaxing down the straight. Jamaican compatriot Blake had taken the first semi in 20.01 seconds from Wallace Piermon, while Chirende Martina won the third in 20.17. Allyson Felix raced to the Olympic 200-meter gold in a time of 21.88 seconds to win the title at the third attempt. The three-time world champion beat a strong field to register her first Olympic gold over the distance after two silvers in 2004 and 2008. The American came from behind in the final straight to pip Jamaican Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce to first place. The Olympic spirit was in distinctly short supply as France and Spain came to blows before the Spaniards sealed a place in the semi-finals of the basketball tournament with a 66-59 victory. Nicolas Batum appeared to punch Spain's Juan Carlos Navarro in a private area on the blind side of the officials as the struggling French lost their cool in the fourth quarter. That sparked a full-scale scuffle between the sides before officials intervened to pull the players apart. Bad blood had been simmering since Spain beat France in Eurobasket final last year, and France coach Vincent Collet even turned on a Spanish reporter. Now, Uganda Cranes International friendly against Malawi Flames has been called off, according to a communication from Rogers Mulindwa, the spokesperson of the National Football Governing Body, FUFA. The message posted off the FUFA website says the cancellation comes from an abrupt change in plan by Malawi Football Association in a communication received this afternoon. The international friendly that had been scheduled to take place on the 15th of this month in Blantyre was meant to gauge the team's readiness for the 2013 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers next month. FUFA is now looking for another friendly match for the Cranes before they face the Chipolopolo of Zambia in the final round of the qualifiers. The team will continue training at Nambole with Emmanuel Okwi and Johnson Bagole expected to join tomorrow. Now, Sports Club Villa are in the final stages of constructing a stadium to be used next season and have changed their training ground to Akiso, with several others, all aimed at increasing their fan base. The club's leadership have also changed their recruitment strategy to target the youth, as Alfred Odong reports.
Sports Club Villa has unveiled 7 recruits expected to bolster their squad in the chase for the 17th Uganda Super League title. The team that last won the national championship in 2004 now enrolls young players, as opposed to last season when they opted for the elite.
We're investing in young players who are eager to prove themselves, who have a long career ahead of them, who are happy to don the Villa shirt, who have not been contaminated by habits many senior players have.
The Jogos have also shifted their training to Kisubi Seminary in Wakiso as they prepare to construct a stadium at Villa Park to be used next season. This is expected to cut the club's operational costs because they will stop paying millions of shillings to Nachivubo and Nambole Stadia to host their league games.
Well, I think our first target is to have 5,000 people fitted in that stadium. We have a big board, a board of experienced people, and we have one of our board directors working on the stadium because he's got expertise and he's quick with those kind of things.
St. Mary's College Kisubi Heritage and International Schools will also host some practice session as the club makes inroads in broadening their fan base. Alfred Odong, NTV Sport. Okay, 0.
And that winds up NTV Sport this evening. Thanks for watching.
We'll now take a look at Friday's weather forecast for the capital, major Ugandan towns and selected cities around the world.
Let's now go back to tonight's NTV poll. We asked, do you think NRM's loss in several by-elections is an indication of the growing strength of the opposition? The final poll result is here. 69% of our respondents are saying yes, 31% of you say no.
Well, we thank you so much for all your comments tonight. Let's now sample some of them.
Okay, Claire, Betty, you say no. Maybe the NRM's loss is because of the wrong candidates, and you cite the Ishaka Bushenye municipality by-election.
And Dr. Kabura from Fort Portal here says, no, it is a sign that the opposition are getting more alert to play the game on an unleveled ground.
Okay, we'll leave it at that because we are running out of time. But thank you so much for all of your contribution. NTV Poll will return tomorrow. Up next, though, is our premium talk show on the sport, with Patrick Kamara. So be sure to stay tuned for that.
Well, we thank you so much. I am Faith Ariel.
And I'm Gabriel Epenu. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
No one feels the motherland like we do. So tune in every day at 6 p.m. and Fridays from 11 p.m. for the best in homegrown music. Only on NTV, the station that celebrates local music talent.